Welcome to Mikitagnosis. Today it's very hard to imagine Moscow city without a metro, and indeed Moscow's metro is rather special for many interesting reasons. It's not quite like the rest. Today it is more akin to an entire underground city that lives by its own rules, kind of like its own individual organism that has its own rhythm, its own culture, its own legacy and its own monuments, yet remaining an inseparable part of the capital. So let's look at when, why and how was it built, what is so special about it, and what secrets does it still hold. So without any further ado, let's take a ride, shall we? The initial idea about launching an underground railway station in Moscow started at least 50 years prior to its realization. From 1875 to 1930, there have been at least 5 different projects and concepts in the works, but the building process itself didn't start until the 1930s. The main reason for the sudden necessity was the steady growth of Moscow, which attracted people from all over the USSR, which in turn overburdened the public transportation system. It is interesting to note that in the 1930s the public transport consisted mostly of trams, which especially in the small cities remained as the main type of transportation until the late 1980s. And after a thorough preparation, on the 10th of December of 1931, the works have finally begun. In the beginning there was no plan to make the metro system too deep, but since that would require a literal reworking of the entire city, a young but an exceptionally talented engineer, Vyacheslav Makovsky, has proposed to keep digging deeper and to continue the constructions from there. This unexpected proposal has met a lot of critique, and he was about to get dismissed from the project entirely when the city mayor, Lazar Kaganovich, has unexpectedly given his support in trying out this experimental venture. However, the final green light for digging deeper and to trying out building the remaining tunnels from their own was given by Stalin himself. Once that was decided, the digging continued, with the metro depth reaching around 75 meters underground. However, due to the lack of experience and qualified personnel, the construction itself was very slow and painful. The Soviet workers did what they could, but eventually the engineers have realized that a foreign consultation was required. As a result, the British expertise and know-how played a vital role in the successful continuation of the project. After some negotiations, by 1934 a British tunneling shield has finally arrived, and one more was locally developed thanks to the reverse engineering by the Soviet experts. And thanks to that technology, the work progress has seen an enormous boost, and on the 15th of October of 1934, the very first Soviet metro line was finally launched. And now, with this newly acquired expertise, the next 13 stations were completed at record speeds by the 15th of May of 1935, and by the 1938 the second batch of lines was also built and become fully operational. Unlike its brethren, the Moscow Metro was really built like an underground city. Even the motto under which the construction was taking place proclaimed that the goal was to build an underground palace for the people. And as we can see, they were really serious to drive that point home, as the Moscow Metro looks like a work of art, and it really feels like you're in some kind of an underground palace or a castle, rather than a simple white metro area. Additionally, it became one of the deepest metro systems in the world, but interestingly, a decade later it would be surpassed by another Soviet metro project in Kiev. The Kiev Metro Arsenalna is currently the second deepest metro in the world, being around 106 meters deep, only behind the North Korean metro in Pyongyang, which is 110 meters deep. The beauty and the aesthetic features of the Moscow Metro were appreciated and valued by the foreign specialists as well, as in 1939 the Soviet architect Alexei Dushkin has received a grand prize on the International Exposition in New York. But the aesthetic factor and the transportation were not the only things that it provided, as just 2 years later, with the start of the Second World War, in 1941 the metro was used as a bomb shelter for the city population, and according to the Soviet statistics, during the big air raids, this underground city was usually housing around 500,000 people. This new reality of war has pushed the further evolution of this underground life, with libraries, shops, theaters and cafeterias being opened there on a regular basis. Even a good number of small underground hospitals were built, since the amount of women who were giving birth there was constantly increasing. As a result, soon this underground lifestyle has become the norm, proving once again that a human being can get used to anything and persevere even in the most alien of environments. Little known fact is that the Moscow Metro was on the brink of being destroyed when the enemy forces were coming close to the capital. On the October 15th of 1941, there was a decree from Stalin to partially flood and to booby-trap the remaining tunnels. However, this decree was cancelled on the very next day. Expanding this underground city was so important to Stalin that he ordered to continue daily works even during the toughest days of war, and as a result in 1943 a third batch of lines was fully built and operational. In total, during the years of war, around 13 kilometers of tunnels were created, many big stations were erected, and 7 additional lines were built. After recovering and gathering some strength after the World War II, in 1951 Stalin has ordered for the creation of the 4th batch of metro lines, and their construction was finished in a record time. They were completed by the mid-1950s. This was also around the beginning of the Cold War era, so this time around the new Moscow's metro lines had to accommodate several additional purposes. After that, the Moscow Metro was officially completed for the time being. Unofficially though, many underground projects were still in the works all the way to the 1990s. As a result, the underground Moscow has got so many myths and legends of its own that it's crazy, about the secret government bunkers, secret labs, covered exclusive metro lines, and entire underground cities and living quarters with food and water to last for several decades at the very least. This elusive topic has become attractive for multiple bloggers, diggers and journalists, as it leaves a lot of room for fantasy and imagination. The scope can definitely be left to the interpretation, however, the existence of such cities, secret lines and bunkers is a hard fact. In the recent years, several of such secret bunkers have been declassified and turned into museums, where you can descend and see for yourself the living quarters, kitchens, entertainment areas and the tunnels, but many people still speculate that these are only the smallest and the less significant of such establishments, and that the real deal is still well hidden. These urban legends have gained such a cult following that they got embedded into the post-Soviet popular culture itself. The well-known Russian author Dmitry Glukhovsky, who got famous for his novel called Metro 2033, got really inspired by these events. It's a book about the alternative history where the Cold War didn't end, and how after the nuclear war, the remaining humanity was surviving many decades in the Moscow metro tunnels. It's a fascinating read, so if you are into alternative history and the Soviet culture, I really recommend you to check it out. However, if you prefer a more visual type of media, you can also check their well-received video game adaptations. The stations that were built during the Cold War era are said to be strong enough to resist the nuclear bombardment. Now, whether that's true or not, we can't really tell, as luckily they were never put to the actual test. But the topics about the vast underground cities that are interlocked around the whole Moscow are indeed fascinating. Their specific locations and characteristics, though, remain classified to this day. If you enjoy my content, subscribe and help this channel grow, as well as feel free to leave your suggestions for future videos. So, have you ever heard about the Moscow Metro? Have you ever been there? If you have, what are your thoughts about it? Kindly let me know in the comments below. The next video will be about Sistema Vasilieva. We will dissect the style, see how it holds up against Sistema Kalashnikova, and compare it to the infamous Sistema Ryabko. So, until then, remember to stay strong, stay healthy, and to never neglect knowledge. Peace out.